Hello everyone, I am Tacit and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the I'm a Snake event in which the Weresnake is added to the game. So this week of course is the tame week between seasons, where of course we don't have a current campaign before campaign 19 ends up starting up. However, we do still have a few things going on this week, most notably being the new Mythic coming out this Friday. One thing to mention real quick is the Summer Imp is back in drop table, so if you still need that thing, you'll be able to go get it when you try to get that Mythic this Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or anytime when you end up doing it within that week period, as the Imp is now back in the drop table. And the Imp of Love, I guess, would be out then. I believe that was the previous one. We still need that. As far as the new troop is concerned, it is pretty underwhelming. It does come in with a nice amount of brown purple arcanes if you need to go stock up on them at only 200 each. However, the troop itself is really bad. It deals some damage to 2 random enemies, and then poisons them. That's, like, not horrible. The problem is the next part of its ability. It then has a 30% chance to transform them into a basilisk. A basilisk is not a bad troop. It is actually pretty good. The fact that it can transform them into that is very strange. Especially since if you're already doing damage to something and then you're transforming it, you know, you're basically giving them back their durability. It's just a really weird mechanic. On top of that, even as a lycanthropy to make it even worse, 50% chance to convert a purple gem to a lycanthropy gem. The only good thing this thing has going for is that it does have impervious, but I really see absolutely no use case for it. It'll probably slow you down more than it'll ever help you in any given fight and has no follow-up, as the issue with pretty much any troop that has no follow-up at all. So it can actively be a negative on your team and has no follow-up, so there's pretty much no reason to ever run this. Not even in the very annoying event that we have going on this week, as Journey event's going to be kind of rough this week. But there are a few things you can still run. We'll get into that in a moment. But first, let's get into the event keys. So, of course, event keys, Mystic skills. As far as the drop table is concerned, every single thing that you see here, except the following, is in the drop table. The things that are not are the 5 faction troops from the Dark Pits, or from the Dark Pits faction. And beyond that, the Tarot card of the World is in the Vault Key drop table. However, and the new troop for the current event, for the current Journey event, this is also only from the Journey event. So those 7 things are not in drop table. However, everything else that you see here is. The most noteworthy ones, oddly enough, one of the strongest things in this entire kingdom is a common. You probably already have it laying around. It's basically Thrall, but tankier. It has a 2 higher mana cost, but it gets to Entangle on cast, and has Entangle on skull, and has 33% skull reduction. So basically ultra tanky Thrall. So there are some situations where you use it, particularly in elemental teams, or the occasional monster team, which is a bit applicable to this place. Aside from that, other things you're looking for, Merilith, really good just overall mana accumulator, very similar to Thrall as well. Does have double the mana cost, but does have some trip damage to remove barrier and such. Also gains a little bit of attack over time, so after you've spammed it several times, it actually gets a somewhat okay attack, especially earlier on in the game, where 6 attack matters way more than later on in the game. And it also has Fire Link, so ends up getting some extra mana if you happen to spam it. Venoxia, pretty good overall true damager. Does tend to miss quite often, however has really good synergy with another thing from this place, which is Takshaka. Keep in mind there are 4 mythics from this place, which means if you're trying to go for a mythic, you could have to open upwards of 4,000 keys to try to get even 1 copy. So it is probably worthwhile, unless you're missing a ton of them, to get Takshaka off of diamonds at a future time. However, I'm not mistaken, this is the first time since Takshaka had came out as a mythic where he is accessible, other than like the gigantic drop table, because I don't believe he is rotated in Soulforge yet. So if you do want to test your luck, yeah, he is available for event keys right now and will be for the rest of this week. Though do keep in mind, it is very unlikely as it is competing with 3 other mythics as the drop table. So whenever you see like your mythic chance on a given category, it's technically 4 times rarer than that, because any of those other mythics could end up appearing completely randomly. But of course, this thing's absolutely insane. It creates a wild card every single turn at 100% rate, and it's a 3 times, not even a 2 times wild card. It does a very high amount of true damage while having really decent chance of landing an extra turn, and overall is among one of the strongest troops in the game right now. Though your chance of getting it from event keys really low, but if you do want to test your luck, otherwise wait until it rotates in Soulforge in about a month or 2. And that's pretty much it. You're looking for Venoxia, you're looking for Merilith, you're looking for Takshaka if you really want to test your luck. Though don't try going too much into it, as especially if you already have these other ones. I would really only open event keys, and this is pretty much for any place. If you are missing more than half the mythics in the location, it is probably worthwhile to use event keys. But if you're only missing, like, let's say just Takshaka here, definitely just wait till diamonds. But if you're missing, like, 2, especially 3, especially if all 4, then it's obviously more enticing to go for. Especially if you're missing all of them, as you're guaranteed to get a mythic that you do not have when you do get a mythic. Anyways, so okay, drop table. Though I'd mostly just go for Venoxia if you don't have it, as it'll be helpful for a couple things this week. With that being said, one thing that's not helpful for is whatever on earth this journey restriction is. For reasons I do not comprehend, the restriction for this Naga is brown and not green. Obviously, this is because it creates brown gems and not green, but why does it create brown gems and not green? Nagas as a typing are generally a pretty heavy green-red typing, so the fact that it creates brown is very absurdly confusing. While there are a few mechanics that synergize with brown, they're very far and few between, and there is not much to use, like, at all. Your main saving grace if you're looking for a low rarity team, quote-unquote low rarity team, as is a little bit higher rarity, but it was out pretty recently, so if you did pick it up from that one Doom event a couple months ago or whenever it was, if you own the Doom Spade, it's going to be a hard carry for this event. I used it on the cheaper team. Obviously on this team we're using Wand into the Mythic. But this is going to be your hard carry for the entire game, or for this mode this week, if you have it. Hopefully you have it, because the alternatives that aren't this are not ideal if you don't have some of the better Mythics to use, so hopefully you have this laying around, or some other Doom weapon that's decent underneath the brown category. But this is enough to carry you through the whole thing, since you have to use a pure team of brown anyways, and it benefits from you having a pure team of brown. So ideally you have Doom Spade, but otherwise you're going to need to get a little bit more creative with your team, because we have a total of 13 options, half of which are dead content, 3 of which are Mythics. So that is not good at all. As far as Mythics are concerned, the main one you are probably going to want to use is the Salamandria, which is oddly enough from Broken Spire, not from Mists of Scales, meaning there is no way to get it this week if you do not have it. But it has Firelink, it has, well, I shouldn't say no way. Technically, it's in the Glory Gem Guild and VIP just drop table for the next 4 days before Friday. So the chance that you're going to get it from that drop table is basically 0. So it's technically is, but also isn't. So if you don't have it, you're basically not getting it this week. But if you do have it laying around, Salamandria, especially 2 of them, it creates burning gems every single time you take an extra turn. This does stack, so if you have 2, 3 of them on your team, you don't want to run 4 because you have to use the Slither thing. But if you have multiple on your team, this does stack. So in the case of 2, we will create 4 burning gems every single time we take an extra turn, which obviously is a lot of extra red mana, and you can just synergize that with Firelink to get a lot of extra mana. Explodes all burning gems, so he has a little bit of mana accumulation, does a ton of true damage, so it'll be the main one that we're kind of using here. The other Mythics are perfectly fine as well. Medusa, also true damage base, has a lot of stats effects I can end up doing, and Mambarissa does a ton of little chip damage, and with enough mana you can just end up getting it up. Main things that are pretty noteworthy that we cannot use Venoxia. We cannot use Box Strider, which I guess makes sense. It is from Mists of Scales, but isn't a Naga. And most notably, we can't use Takshaka because it does not use brown. We also can't even use Merilith if I didn't already mention that. So yeah, there's not much you could use here at all. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Especially if you don't own the Mythics. If you somehow don't own any of these 3 Mythics and you don't own Doom Spade, I honestly have no clue what you're supposed to run. I guess Doomed Club and do like some mana accumulation? Because there is about nothing for this event, other than, I guess, spamming the Slither thing. As that is one default, even though they have nerfed Journey Troops into the ground. It does have 10 gem spawn when you run, if you're going to mass up on it. You don't get extra bonus for this. You have to use it on your team for the 3 times miles, but you don't get extra bonus from having multiple. However, you can run multiple on your team without a downside, unlike Bounty Hunter, where if you run multiple, you have to get penalized and score. This you're allowed to run 2, 3, even 4 if you somehow wanted to. But you don't get penalized for using multiple. So if you really, really, really had to, you can just mass Slitherling into Slitherling and hope that that will be enough. It technically will, but it will fall off pretty hard at a certain point. But yeah, this is probably honestly one of the more annoying journeys we've ever had as far as options for it, especially after the Journey Troop nerf. Anyways, other things that we have going on this week. No campaign, which as we mentioned, and that campaign 19 starting next week. Let's go over all the weekly things then. Tuesday, we're going to be having the faction event for the Dark Pits, which is a brown-green restriction. Wednesday, I actually forget which pet this is. This is either the Mists of Scales pet or the Naga pet. I assume the Naga pet, based on the snake. Thursday, we have ourselves the class event for Assassin, which is a very luck-based hero class, the most luck-based in the entire game. It either does one of 2 things. It either gets really lucky and absolutely auto-wins the fight, or it gets very unlucky and it's basically like not even running a hero class. It is very volatile. It's a lot of fun to mess around with, though generally isn't used due to its very high variability, and it just has really low consistency if you're wanting a certain thing to happen from it. Has insta-kill chance, has insta-kill chance into another insta-kill chance, as it has it off of both skulls, and when it gets a kill, as dodge chance. There's a lot of RNG mechanics, and when they trigger, it's nice. When they don't, it's like running nothing. And on Friday, we're going to be having a faction event. So we'll be having a new faction troop coming in, a whole faction thing and all that happening with it, as well as a new Mythic this Friday, which honestly, it's not too bad. You're not going to use it on standard teams, but it does have its use case. So we're going to be getting this thing, a Daemon Urska from Urskaya. It's a brown, red, green, which is pretty similar to some other things like Ketris and such, which has a pretty similar ability to. It does a bunch of magic damage, splash damage to 3 random enemies. So this will hit 3 random enemies and then do 50% to the 2 adjacents around them. And this is boosted by Enrage allies, which isn't much, but given that it's doing so many pokes, it can get an okay amount of value. If your entire team is enraged, it will end up getting 8 additional damage per poke, so that's not too bad. On top, it has no follow-up, which is probably its most noteworthy thing. That will make it not as useful, but it's kind of in like that Tina 9000 Ketris category where they're the same color. They don't get any extra turn potential, but they do a lot of damage when they cast. The most noteworthy thing that it has, aside from its pretty decent damage on its ability, is its final trait, has Bleed Terror. Bleed has no relevance here, as there's no bleed boost ratio, and it's not doing true damage, so it's pretty underwhelming. However, Terror can end up getting you some free kills, which can also allow this thing to scale pretty far, since Terror can insta-kill, whereas its ability is pretty good at killing out the low to mid-range. So overall, it's not horrible. You're not really going to be using it too often. The main reason why this thing can be good is under Daemon, Urska, and Urskaya options, particularly Urska and Urskaya. If you lack better options, this could actually be your best overall damage source. Like I think before, when I wanted some damage for this category, I was running King Mikhail, which is a legendary brown-yellow, and it hits all enemies for an okay amount of damage, but this hits it for substantially more, even though it doesn't have any extra turn potential. So this could be used in those kind of Urska restrictions where you just need some damage. So in future restrictions like that, it'll probably get used, but beyond that, it doesn't have too much of a use case. You're not going to be using it on general teams unless Bleed or Terror teams become particularly relevant in the future. But even then, its ability is pretty lackluster, and you'd only really be using it for its final trait. But overall, it's not a horrible Mythic. It's not good, it's not bad. It's just that in-between that will just fit some niches that wasn't really filled before, so that's its main purpose. Next, let's head over to the Soul Forge. There is one thing here that I believe was worthwhile, and it is Scourge of Honor. While his damage looks pretty pitiful compared to something like Stellarx these days, he is still a really good true damage AoE troop. He does a bunch of damage to all enemies and gains a bunch of mana back based on every curse and disease on the opposing team. And you might think you might have to put a bunch of curse and disease to make that work. However, you don't really need it a lot of times because he himself has a curse disease mechanic quite conveniently. So he gets a little bit of mana at start of battle, he has cursed disease to go into his cursed disease, and if the entire enemy team is cursed disease, that is 16 mana out of his 22, which means he would only need 6 additional mana if the entire enemy team is cursed disease, which in a lot of cases, if you get your extra turns up, that will be the case, meaning you'll only need 6 mana to get all the way back up, cast again, and just really good for just that true damage pokes. Obviously, we have some better things these days, like most notably Vinoxi into Takshaka, or even just Takshaka in general. However, it's still pretty decent for what it does, and it's still one of the better ways of actually applying this combination, as Cursed Disease can be a good way to actually prevent the enemy team from getting a bunch of mana. It's very niche, but does still have its use case these days. Anyways, as far as weapons are concerned, nothing really noteworthy. I would only really pick up a weapon if you're looking to use it for a given event this week. If you feel like you have absolutely no option for a given event mode, might be worthwhile to pick out one of these. Actually, one of these is probably brown too, if I'm not mistaken. Which one of these is brown? There's that one good weapon. I can't find it here. Why do I feel like it's missing weapons? Where's that one really good? I can't remember if it was brown though. There's, oh yes it was. This was the one I was thinking of. So if you're going to get any one weapon, it's probably this one. As it could probably help you a lot if you're missing absolutely every possible option. It ends up creating a bunch of red and green based on how many Naga allies you have. If you're missing absolutely every possible option for the current journey event, this is probably the weapon you want to pick up. Let's say you're missing that one Doomed weapon, you don't have Doomed Club, you have absolutely like nothing for your weapon. You don't have Wand, you don't have anything like that. This is what you want to go get. It ends up creating a bunch of red and green. You will need to go put something in your team that uses red. However, green, of course, feeds into, well, for one, itself, which is really useful. It's actually one of those few weapons that actually feeds mana back into itself. So there's things like this, Stone Slicer, and a few others, but they're very few and far between. So it is advised getting this, even just for that aspect. It actually has some pretty good synergies outside of that. But it's also be able to feed into the Journey Troop. So you'll be able to go feed it green, it feeds brown back, it feeds into itself. It will give you a lot of mana. So if you're looking for like that one thing that you need, if you don't have any of the better options, get this thing. Just Cobra's Curse it, and you should be fine. Even just this into 3 of the Journey Troop, you'll be fine to get the event done. It's not going to be ideal, but it will work. So yeah, if you're struggling with that or anything this week under restrictions, like for example, for I don't think I actually mentioned on any team, oddly enough. However, it's really good for the Underspire as well. So if you need help with Underspire, it can be a really great, cheap alternative Underspire weapon. Speaking of which, let's get into all the teams, all which will be in the description below if you want to go and copy-paste any of them. I will start all the way from the top with the Journey teams. As far as Journey is concerned, we kind of already showed this team earlier, but we're going all in into just spamming out some Landria and just hoping that will be enough. Does have true damage, does have extra turn potential, does have even more extra benefit from getting extra turns, and we're just using Wand to play it really safe. We can go a more offensive option if we want to, but we're just going down the safer route. Next we have ourselves the other team, and this we're going to be using Doom Spade with the Slitherling and just 2 Kobolds. This is mostly just if you don't want to go to 3 Slitherlings. Obviously 3 Slitherlings can also be your option. Other reason we did this is Brown Link, so you will be able to get additional brown mana. And as I mentioned earlier, you can end up running that one Cobra weapon, wherever it is. Where is it? Cobra's Curse. You can run this if you don't have Doom's Spade. It is advised running Doom Spade instead if you do have it, as it should be stronger overall. However, Doomed Curse is perfectly fine. The only really big downside of Doomed Curse, which I guess a little bit of upside too, is that it is green-brown, which means you will be full blocking your Slitherling. However, this creates green, and excess green will go into your Slitherling, and any excess green will also feed brown back into your Cobra's Curse. So either way, Doom Spade is better, but if you don't have it, run Doomed Curse, as you can get it in Soulforge. And that would make this team very easy to get if you do go down this route, as you'll be able to go Cobra's Curse from Soulforge, Slitherling, which you're going to be getting from the event anyways, from spending like, what, 210 gems or whatever it is, and double Kobold. If you don't have this, all you have to do is go spend some of your shards at Emperinazar in the Underworld, and you're probably going to get it within like 100, 200. You'll easily get 2 copies of him. He's the lowest rarity thing there, so he's really common. Even within like 5 drops, you'll probably even get it. At most, you'll need like 20 of them, and you'll easily end up getting it and get your 2 Kobolds, which you use just for your Stone Link. Alternatively, you can get an extra tier and go triple Slitherling as well. Really, this comes down to preference as far as what you want to run for it. Next, we have ourselves the Dark Pits faction event. So for Dark Pits, we have brown, green restriction, though of course you are still allowed to run any color hero weapon. For this, once again, we are going down the Guard's Avatar route. However, of course, you can go down Rowain, though do keep in mind you don't have 50% mana start if you do go down the Rowain route. So I just figured to keep up with Guard's Avatar since he got buffed pretty recently, like 2 weeks ago. Next, for the higher rarity team, you can actually, this could also be considered a lower rarity team. Box Strider, Leprechaun into any damage source. That's it. That's all you need. Just run Box Strider in first slot, Leprechaun all the way in the back, and run your best 2 damage sources in the middle. Like likely Hero with something, and like whatever your best damage source is that you have that's under brown green restriction. That's all you need. In this case, we're running a Hiking Iron Gut Quick Kill team. However, you can run anything you want in the middle. It's basically this Box Strider Leprechaun to just fill out whatever you have. Next, we have ourselves the Peer Faction team. As far as Peer Faction, it's pretty straightforward. Not really much that needs to be changed on this. Sledge Paul, you never cast. However, you're running him because he has really good tank ability. He's 25% score reduction into 3 heal every single turn. Though to keep in mind, he only heals if he has any damage on his HP. Otherwise, doesn't gain additional HP, just healing back what he already has damage. Plague Rat's your main mana accumulator, just explodes a ton. Has a few other mechanics on it too, like Poison Disease, though you're using it entirely from its impervious into explode, so it can't be mana drained and the such, which is pretty nice. Or sorry, this one, I keep forgetting. Impervious does not have mana drain immunity. It has mana burn immunity. I always keep forgetting that. But it still has immunity to a ton of things, so you won't have to deal with a ton of that. And next we have ourselves Hexrat. Hexrat deals a bunch of damage to basically all enemies. It does it to all enemies, to whatever enemy you target and all enemies below. So generally what you want to do with this is target first slot and just keep doing this over and over again until you AoE kill the entire enemy team. And it's pretty much the premise with this guy. So you're basically just running AoE into tank ability. Tank you with this, mana accumulate this, Hexrat, kill everything, win. And that's pretty much the game plan there. Next we have ourselves the Assassin Hero class. For this you have to use Nagas from Mist of Scales. Otherwise you can run anything for your weapon, of course. For this we're just running a Dawnbringer Quick Kill. If you don't have Dawnbringer, run Summer's Fury, or whatever that one red weapon is. Any red weapon you have that hits all enemies will be perfectly fine here. Tapon, we do this for the Empower Red. Converts all around the red. Mirrorlift, ton of mana accumulation while also having Firelink. And you just keep spamming whatever your best red AoE weapon is, and do that until you win. Next, we have ourselves the final teams here. We have ourselves the Underspire. So for this, we're allowed to run anything from Mist of Scales. With that being said, run Takshaka Vanaxi if you have it, as it should be the freest win ever. I did do a Box Strider here, though, of course, if you have triple Takshaka, you can go down that route. And if you lack double Takshaka, you can replace out for Hero. So it really just comes down to what you want to run. Run based on whatever you have. But whatever you're going to do, definitely run Box Strider. Box Strider is going to be your main mana accumulation based on these restrictions. Is by far your best route for getting mana. For this cheaper team, we did go down the Medusa's Tome running a insta-kill team, just so you have scaling. However, of course, as we mentioned earlier, you can go down the Cobra's Curse and run a pure Naga team instead. Really comes down to preference. The only problem with a Naga team is there isn't really many Naga mechanics that are going to upscale to the really late battles. Whereas what I did with this team is I ran the 2 things that have insta-kill here. Actually, don't you have insta-kill too? No, you just have really high damage. You don't actually have insta-kill. But plus it's a legend. It's not actually a low rarity thing. But anyways, we're running Devour, essentially. So we're running 2 different things that have Devour while also still having chip damage. And we're just trying to Devour out everything using Boxer to get all of our mana, using Hero to do some chip damage, and also try to get all of our mana, and just Devour spamming until you kill them all. For the earlier fights, you might want to run something a little bit more Naga-based, but for this, it's actually a 4 times Elemental team, oddly enough. Actually gets the full bonus from having 4 Elementals on the team, as we are running Elementals with everything else. So, this ended up working out okay. The only really big issue is you're really luck-based on your insta-kills, but it's the only thing that under low rarity here that really upscales all the way to the later fights, like when you're in like the final section, the second to last final section. So you're going to be needing stuff like that. And then if they do have immunity, you just keep chipping them down. I think there might be a curse somewhere here if you're going to go curse. The only problem is I don't think there's a cheap curse. Like, yes, there's things like Medusa. That's like the highest rarity you can get. So I don't think there's like a really good way to do that otherwise. So I just went double Devour as the next best alternative. Yeah, you can't even run Wand either. Yeah, you don't really have a good curse option to bypass it, so you just have to hope they don't have Devour, otherwise chip them down with Weapon and the poke off of the trap. Worst comes to worst, if you keep spamming Box Strider, he just gets so much mana and skulls that you would eventually chip them down. He does have immune to Entangle too, not sure if I mentioned there. Oh, sorry, no. He doesn't have immune. I always thought he did. He has Entangle and Skull, but not immune to Entangle. So he can still be Entangled back, but it's fine. Anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below. We'll be messing around with everything tonight, as we do every single night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, kind of messing around with the current absurdly annoying journey event. Honestly, it's not too bad though. As long as you have like one of the 3 options, which are like the good mythics, or Doom Spade, or go get that weapon from Soulforge. As long as you go one of those 3 routes, it shouldn't be too bad. The main thing that just makes this so bad is our options are non-existent. It is so bad how little things we have to use. I don't understand why they went brown restriction instead of green. I will not understand that, but oh well. It's not the worst thing that could have happened, but anyways, guys, hope you all enjoy your week. Best of luck if you're going to be trying for this Mythic this Friday and over that course of that week, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.